Hello, my friend. Welcome to the Andy Special, a podcast about community with entrepreneurs who create spaces for it to thrive. I'm your host, Ashley Chonka. With me today is Nicoline Evans, YA adult and fantasy author and hiking/adventure enthusiast. Hey, Nicoline. This bookworm is super excited to have you on the show today.
Hey, how are you?
Doing all right. How are you?
Good. I'm happy to be here.
Happy to have you with us today. Why don't you start off by telling us a bit about yourself?
Fantastic. So my name's Nicoline Evans. I'm an author. I write fantasy novels for all different ages. I write children's books, and I also have 2 poetry books out. I've been writing since 2009, published since 2014. So I've been hustling. Pretty much the real hustle has started in like 2014 when I first started publishing. And pre-COVID, I did tons of book shows like New York Comic-Con, BookCon. I went out to Seattle, Chicago, Baltimore, all over. And I'm hoping that someday soon I'll be allowed to attend those again. Until then, I'm, trying to figure out this online world, which is, I'm a very hands-on person, so it's a little bit tough sometimes. I was able to hit the Bethlehem Christmas market. And
as I know, because I finally got to meet you there. I was so excited. Like, I saw you with your adventure post about Acadia National Park, and then I saw you were a local author, and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to follow her. I saw the Christmas market, and I was like, gotta go. And I'm so glad I did.
No, I'm so glad you did too. And then I got to show you my photos, and we got to talk about the books, and it was fantastic. And now we're doing this, so everything happens for a reason.
Exactly.
So very cool. So that was a great show that I still was able to attend because they were able to do it outdoors, which was nice. But again, with books, it's very tough to do outdoor shows because paper doesn't really hold up in any kind of weather besides sunshine. So wind is rough, rain is rough, snow is rough. So just making the best of it as we go through, as we got through 2020. And
so you've been doing a lot of consulting work now?
Yep. So doing lots of consulting work where I talk to writers about whatever issues they may be having, whether it's, they're in the writing process and they need help brainstorming, they need help, breaking down their story, or they're caught up on something, or authors who are in the publishing process, whether they're doing self-publishing or they want to go traditional. I tend to focus more on self-publishing because that's where my expertise lies, but I can give some advice about the traditional publishing as well. So that, and then I'm also doing edits. So I've actually taken on some editing jobs as well. So editing people's manuscripts, which is fun. It's actually interesting because I like editing other people's stuff, but when it comes to mine, I'm like, this is a headache. And probably because when you write it, you've read it so many times,
I feel like your own skin by that point, and you're like, how do I edit this?
Because you start, you can't, it's harder to have a critical eye when you've read it so many times and you start glossing over all those key words. Like, for example, if you use the word, he looked over, or it seemed, or he thought, there's certain flagged words. If you have these flagged words in your document, you want to reassess that sentence, and most likely you can make it a stronger sentence. But when you're reading your manuscript for the 100th time, you're just like, I just need to get through this. So you're just glossing.
I feel like your eyes are probably not even able to focus at that point.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So that's why it's so important to hire a different editor. Hence why I do that for other people, and I hire people to do that for me. It's it's a very, very important part of the process. So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Always good to have a second pair of eyes. And also you have like the beta readers and everything too.
And the beta readers are so fantastic for, they'll catch little stuff too. So if a beta reader's reading, I don't ask them to edit it. You don't have to catch grammar and stuff like that. But if you see it, tell me, obviously. But yeah, for that's more helping with if I have a character and I expect my reader to love them, but my beta readers hate that character, I have done something wrong as the writer, So beta readers are really great for that, to kind of see how do they feel about certain characters. Does the storyline make sense to them? Is there plot holes? Bigger conceptual type of stuff.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's a whole process.
So what do you love about writing?
What I love is, quite frankly, writing keeps me sane, 1000%. Being able to get take what I'll often do is I'll take a very real topic in the human world and wrap it up into a fantasy world and basically try to tell a human story in a fantasy setting. So as a reader, you relate, but there's all these crazy things happening, so it's a lot of fun. So for me, it's kind of cool. It's probably therapeutic too in certain ways, where I'm taking things either I've gone through or I've seen people go through, and I process it by writing a story. So that's one thing. I also love writing. It's just fun. It's a kind of a great escape from reality when life is stressful. I mean, that's why I used to read. I loved reading to escape whatever I had going on. So whether it was school, when I got into the corporate world, it was that. I'm like, I need a break from this, and I need something that doesn't feel real at all. So I'd go to fantasy novels. And then that was essentially where my idea to write came, because I loved reading so much. And I think it was the Hunger Games. I had finished the Hunger Games, and I'm like, I think I can write something really cool like this. Like, I loved it so much, and I was inspired to write my own kind of story.
And then you did it.
And then I did it, and I just kept going. And I'm hoping my stories hit people like those stories do. So
they do, definitely. Oh my gosh.
That makes me feel good.
Yeah, like when especially like when Juniper is like doing her thing with the trees, it's like you could feel it with her. So I really love the imagery of your books.
Fantastic. That makes me happy. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's important, because I really want, when I write, I very much hope that my readers can visualize exactly what I'm seeing as I'm writing it. So that's the goal. So I'm happy that you had that experience with it.
Yeah, you're doing what helped you when you were young, transporting people to other worlds than the one that they're in.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. So that's exactly the goal. And one day, if I think the biggest goal of them all would be like, I want my stories, even though, and I'm sure you've noticed, I have very dark themes or heavy undertones. Like, there's a lot of emotion, not emotion blatantly, but like, it's just heavy concepts a lot of the time. There's a lot of, dealing with death or grief and just things like that. And despite all that, I feel like you need to go through those hard emotions to feel the good ones. Even more so, especially when you're with a character and you're kind of seeing their growth. So, I think the ultimate goal would be, at some point when I have the books I have now or more, readers will see my novels and it'll feel like home to them. It's like, oh, I want to dive into that because it feels comfortable and like home, and I love these characters. Like probably like the way people do with Harry Potter. Like, they'll just go back and reread it because they just want to be in that world. So lofty goals.
Well, you're making them happen day by day,
Yeah, giving them to go.
And so when you're doing all of this stuff, how do you keep hope, when writing doesn't, provide the, escape that you want it to be?
Mm-hmm. So hold on. A dog, I have a big dog, and he like slurps water. And
wait, is that Bubba?
Yeah, you want to see Bubba?
Yes, I do.
Hey,
hello, Bubba. Oh my gosh, so good to see you.
Yeah, so when I'm writing, I definitely hit writer's blocks, probably more so lately than in the past. And I feel like keeping hope isn't that hard for me. I'm sure I could see how that might be hard for some writers. I would recommend, if someone is having trouble finding hope, that they can finish their story. Best thing to do is just remind yourself how happy it makes you, how happy writing makes you. So don't worry about if you're at a writer's block. Just know you'll get there, and finishing it is not something you have to hope for. It's something you have to do. You have to execute. In regards to me, when I have writer's block, the way I keep myself motivated would be more so probably the right word. For example, today, it's a great example. I'm writing a new story, and it was going really smoothly, and I'm about 30,000 words in, and I started noticing that the character's motivation wasn't making sense. And it all has to do with like this object she finds. So I had to remap out what this, like her progression with the object. Does she know it's bad yet? Or does she not realize it's bad? Like, just little things like that. So what I'll do is I'll go on a long walk. So I walked for like 3 miles with no music, just my thoughts, and just thought about it. Like, literally just like, I was having the dialogues in my head, figuring out what makes sense. And then came home. Actually, I did not write them down because I had so many things going on, but I will after this probably. But yeah, so I think the best thing you can do is just sit with your thoughts. If you're having writer's block, sit with your thoughts or keep living your life. And a lot of times out of nowhere, you'll get an idea. And it's like, I was at the gym one time. It was actually for Field of Ashes. Spoiler alert to anyone listening, if you read Field of Ashes. But basically I was having trouble with when the Lamorte's group is coming towards Juniper's group. And like, I felt like things needed to happen along the way to kind of build Xavier being a total jackass. So I was like, there's no way, like this kid needs to really show how evil he is, like in his heart. So, the whole lion scene. So basically I was at the gym and I saw a news article about rhinos getting their horns shaved off to prevent poachers from killing them for their horns. And I was literally on the elliptical sobbing. I'm not kidding you. Like I had to like put my rag because it was just so sad. And like, it just made me sad that we even had to do this because there were humans that would do that. You know what I mean? It's just the rhinos shouldn't have to lose their horns. So anyway, I was like, oh, how great is that? Like maybe little jerk Xavier messes with the animals. And that's a great way to show. I mean, I feel like there's nothing more evil besides hurting babies or old people.
I mean, honestly, like more often if you see that an animal has died, like a dog or something, versus like a human, like your heart just automatically tugs a little bit, like,
oh yeah,
or a lot.
Like in a movie, yeah. I was watching the one with Leonardo DiCaprio, The Covenant, and at one point he rides a horse off a cliff, and I'm like, the horse. I'm like the horse. Why would you do that? And for me, it's like it's an innocent animal, and he didn't volunteer to do that. So, but yeah, I totally know what you mean. Like, especially when it's in a movie and it's not real people. So yeah, but writer's block. Yeah, like I said, a lot of times, sometimes in life, something will spark something. So that's a great way to, I guess, keep hope, stay motivated, like always keep the story going in your head and just know that one, writing makes you happy. And it is honestly very therapeutic. And two, you'll get there. Just don't force it.
Okay, great. And so back in 2014, when you really started publishing, what do you wish you knew then?
What do I wish I knew then? I guess I wish I knew. I mean, I knew it was going to be hard. So that wasn't news to me. Like I knew that it was going to be a hard path, especially eventually, like a few years later, I ended up quitting my corporate jobs and just did the writing I started doing bartending. So I was balancing it. I wish I knew. I wish I knew how to write better. That's the great one. That's the real answer. I wish back then I knew how to write better. I was still a novice and I had my first few books out and they were good. Like, I got a lot of great feedback. But I ended up having, when I wrote the Namate series, so Orwell and that whole series, I worked with an editor who just really tore my work apart. Like it was crushing, but in a very productive way. She ripped it apart. I get my manuscript and just have a panic attack. Like, oh my God, like, is it really that bad? And it wasn't that it was that bad. She was just showing me other ways to say things. So it wasn't, so I felt like 50% of it I didn't really take. And the other 50% of it were like golden nuggets of advice. Like I absorbed everything she told me and I felt like I improved as a writer like a million times. So then I actually ended up going back to my first novels and I didn't change the stories, but I just kind of fixed them up. I would say I polished them. So maybe it's, it's an edit, it's a polish. I wouldn't say it's like a, what is it called? A second edition. It's still the same book. It's just more like, it's more concise. I get to the point a lot quicker than I used to.
What were some of those golden nuggets, if you remember?
Golden nuggets for the writing advice?
Yes.
So basically eliminating filler words. It seemed like blah, 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 blah. No, it seemed, it was, right? Get to the point, be super direct. There's no seeming, it just is. The only time you would use seem is if it really is like a thought, like that makes sense. But like if it's narration, get to the point. You can usually, like things you can say that you say in 10 sentences often can be said in 2. So be as concise as possible. If you have an info dump, I was notorious for info dumps, which is basically like at the beginning of a story when you're building a world, as a writer, as you're figuring out the world, you'll just kind of like write it down instead of showing the world. So I would be like, the grass is orange and the sky is purple and the magic works this way and the blah, blah, blah works that way. So instead of doing that, show, she walked her bare feet through the orange grass, and, you can kind of just show details that way. So show versus tell, no info dumps, get rid of filler words, be as concise as possible. Basically, like, I used to average over 100,000 words for a book, which is enormous. And now I pretty much average like 70 to 90, which is the perfect sweet spot.
Is there like a around a page number of what 70,000 words is?
Yeah, so 70,000 words, it all depends on how you space it and the font size and the font you use. Mine, I do 1.5 spacing, which isn't standard. A lot of people do single, and 70,000 words is probably around like 350 pages ish.
Okay.
90,000 words would be more around like low 400s. I have a couple novels still like hovering up at that 100 range, and those are probably closer to the high 400s. When I first started writing, I never thought in terms of word count, but now I do.
Yeah, I was like just fascinated by that. I was trying to like translate that into something like I would know, like what 70,000 words is. Wow, that's a lot.
I didn't know that when I first started, but it sounds, you hear like 70,000 words or 100,000 words, you're like, what the hell? But then it turns out like that's usually averaging 350 to like 490 pages.
Wow. So how long does it take you to write something that's 70,000 words?
So 70,000 on the shorter end, if I'm having good writing days and I'm not distracted by life or doctor's appointments or just, regular stuff. Usually it's like 4 to 6 months to write a first draft, and then goes to editing for like 1 to 2 months. So let's just say 4 to 6, 7, 8, probably like 8 months to a year to get a final product out. So the story that's in editing and the story I'm writing right now are very complex, and they're a lot deeper than I ever realized they were going to be. So they were a lot harder to write. So Into the Foxhole, which is in editing, took me like 1.5 years, which is crazy. That never takes me that long to get a first draft, and I'm still not even sure that it's done. So, it's been a process. I'm like, oh, I feel like a newbie writer again. It's taken forever, but some books just take longer to get to where they need to be, which is fine. So,
and I'm sure that all that extra time, be able to see it in the novel as well, when it comes out, all that love that you poured into it,
Oh, I sure hope so. I sure hope so. Otherwise, I'm be like, what did I waste 1.5 years on? No one gets it. No one understands what I was talking about. We'll find out soon. I'm pretty sure it should be out before the end of the year. So we'll see.
Wow. I'm excited for it to come out.
Yeah.
What does the word community mean to you? So
community means having people in your circle and extended circle. I feel like they have your back, like people that they might not need to be there every single day, but if you went to your neighbor and said, hey, my lawnmower broke, they would help. Like if you said, hey, there's a family emergency, would you mind letting my dog out? They would be there for you. So I think community to me means people that will be there for you. It doesn't even need to be as simple as like your neighbors. It could be, for example, the writing community. I love the writing community and the reading community. I think both are super awesome. And it's really nice to have other authors to bounce ideas off of. It's really nice to be able to chit chat with my readers. Like there's nothing more motivational than that. And same breath, hiking community. I love the hiking community, as I'm sure you can tell. And so that one is fantastic. I've had so many scenarios where I was on a mountain and something happened and a stranger helps me out, So I cannot say enough nice things about the hiking community. So I think it really is just about people being there for each other.
Being there for each other.
Yeah.
And so is there a specific instance when it just struck you, like how much someone helped you in that moment?
I can give you a very specific example. So I was in Colorado and I was hiking a 14er, which is like one of the tallest mountains in America. Ooh. Yeah. And it was my first.
Which one?
Beardstadt. It's actually probably the easiest 14er to hike. And I had never hiked one. And I got there. So I went there for my birthday in May. I was like, this is a great birthday present for myself. I'm going to go hike some mountains. And it's May. So I'm thinking, this is great. Like, it's going to be spring. I can wear like, capri pants, like a wind jacket. Well, I get there and Denver is 80 degrees, but the second you go up that high in the mountains, it's waist deep snow. So hold on. Bubba, what's up? My dad's coming in, so he's crying and he's excited. But so anyway, so I am hiking up I get to the bottom of the base and it's waist deep snow. And I'm like, can I do this hike? Is it possible? And I see these girls coming down in shorts. So I'm like, oh, if they did it in shorts, I can probably do it. So I start, first off, here's the trailhead. And then down here is where I parked my car. Normally you can drive up to the trailhead, but the problem was there was so much snow, you couldn't drive. So I had to hike up the switchback to get to the trailhead and then do the trail. So I'm hiking up the switchback, a snowmobile sees me, it picks me up, drives me up the rest of the way, which is very nice. I start the hike and I'm like, okay, yeah, the snow is deep. Like it was kind of early. So it was frozen and I was balancing on it. So basically I start doing the hike, it's frozen over and I'm kind of balancing on the snow, but like every so often my foot would fall through and I'd feel how deep it was. Fast forward, I get up to 12,000 feet. Also, I'm by myself, mind you, okay?
Wait, so how did you even get that far to begin with?
Sheer determination and stubbornness is what it was. And so I got to 12,000 feet and there were a couple kids up there and I saw where 14,000 feet led me. And I'm like, I don't know. That's a little bit farther. I couldn't feel my feet at this point. So I'm like, it's best just to go down. So these kids are there. I start going down. I'm like realizing, oh no, the snow's turning to slush. Like I'm not balancing on top anymore. I'm going right down. So I'm in panic mode. I'm like, I'm going to die out here. Like I know there's people, but I feel like I'm going to die. So I get down. I lose my shoe in the snow at one point.
Oh my gosh.
I had to reach down, get it. That was a panic. My ankles were all bloody and they were like turning because I couldn't feel them. So I thought I had a broken ankle. And then I got down so quickly. I had way surpassed those kids up top. So then I'm standing there and I'm like, I can't make it. Like, I know I'm not going to be able to make it because my car is down that switchback. Like it's all the way down. Like I'm like still a mile from the trailhead. So I'm thinking like maybe those snowmobiles are out there. Like if I call someone for help, maybe they can come up and get me. So I walked as far as I could till I had like a bar of service and I called 911 and I was like, I think my ankles are broken or like, sprained maybe. I'm like, I don't think I can do it. So she's like, all right, stay on the phone. We'll have someone come get you. I was like, okay. Again, I'm by myself. Eventually a kid comes down. He wasn't one of the ones I had seen. He's like, are you okay? I'm like, no, I'm not okay. And I'm just like, I'm panicking. I can't feel my feet at all. Like I can't walk. I'm going to fall over. So he stops and stays with me. Those kids came down, but they didn't know how to help. So they walked past me, but the one kid stayed with me. And then these other two kids who had been up at the top at 14,000 feet came down. They stopped and were like, what's going on? I was like, I can't feel my feet. Like I'm panicking and I'm crying and I'm like, this is horrible. So they literally sit me down. They had extra shoes in their bag. So this is like community. These guys literally stopped, took out the shoes in their bag, took my feet. Okay, this is embarrassing. But they took my feet and warmed my feet against their bellies to get the feeling back in my feet. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So basically I was barefoot with my feet against strangers' bellies on top of a 14er in Colorado. And they, freaking ridiculous.
They literally warmed up your feet.
Yeah, no, but it worked. And that's how you would do it. So they warmed up my feet, they gave me their boots and they put their sneakers on. So now they're walking in snow in their sneakers. And I had the lady on the phone and I was like, these guys stopped and helped me. I was like, I think, this is like an hour later. I'm like, I think I can walk down with them. She's like, well, you can go with them or you can stay. I was like, I honestly don't want to leave them at this point because they saved the day, So we end up walking down and I'm feeling a lot better and I feel calm because I'm with them. And we start going down the switchback. The snowmobile that was coming to help me got stuck.
Oh man.
So it couldn't even make because the snow was so slushy. So basically then they helped the snowmobile get dug out. And then we walked all the way down to the bottom and everyone, like all the rescue queue was like down there waiting for me. And I was like, I'm so embarrassed. I promised I wasn't being dramatic. They go, no, we prefer that you call because we've had people who don't call and then it becomes dark out and we can't find them. So I was like, okay, so like we would always prefer someone call than not call. So that's a good piece of advice for any hiker out there. Just call. Don't be embarrassed. because I was definitely embarrassed. And yeah, so these guys literally saved the day, and I'm still friends with one of them on Facebook, and he's always going on adventures, and I love watching his adventures. But yeah,
Aw.
seriously, yeah, that's the hiking community for you. I swear to God, like anyone, I feel like most people would stop, and if nothing else, sit there with you till someone gets there. You body warm, just stay warm together. You know, I would do the same for somebody else. I might not have shoes in my bag, but I would
Make sure you get some help. You know.
Yeah, I wouldn't abandon them. Yeah, exactly. So that's a very potent example of hiking community for me.
When me and my cousin were in Mount Eleanor, when we reached the top, it was getting dark out, and we didn't have like our lights on or anything. And we were walking around, we're like, we don't even know which way to go. And so some girl, she had like a headlamp. And so she was like, just follow me down. And so it was literally what we did.
Good. Yeah. I learned the hard way how important it is to have a headlamp too. Me and my brother were out in Arizona, and we were told at the gate that we can't go to the top because there's not enough time. And we were like, oh yeah, sure. Okay. So we go all the way to the top, we catch sunset, beautiful, gorgeous, awesome. But then we're like, oh shoot, we got to hike down in this. What are we going to do? So we start hiking down in the dark. Neither one of us had a headlamp, and we're walking into cactuses and boulders. It was horrible. And from that day, I have a headlamp in my bag always, because there's nothing worse than darkness on a hike.
What do you bring with you when you go on your hiking adventures?
I always have a pack that has 3 liters of water inside. So it has like one of those tubes. So 3 liters of water, a headlamp. Yes, I have a knife. I have like some kind of like, it's not like a Swiss Army, but it's similar. I have tons of Band-Aids. I keep Band-Aids because if you get even just something as simple as a blister on your foot, there's nothing worse than walking with a blister chafing. If it's a cold one, I'll pack a lot more stuff if it's a cold one, but it really just depends. Can you hear Bubba? Bubba, stop.
Yeah, I could hear Bubba. Oh, I was like, you know what? Bubba's okay. He can stay in the record.
Slurping away. Yeah, so on my hikes, that's usually what I bring. Like I said, if it's a really hard hike and it's cold out, there's a lot more stuff that goes into it. Like, maybe extra pair of socks, like 2 pairs of gloves. Like, you don't want to be cold. I'm trying to think if I forgot anything. I have this thing called the Spot, which is not activated anymore, but what it is it's a little device that's GPS activated. So after the Colorado incident, my mom bought it and was like, you need to have this on your bag at all times. And when you get to the top of any hike, send us your coordinates. So it's a really cool thing that, especially for solo hikers, that you can have it. So I had my mom, my dad, and my aunt, like whenever I hit the button, they would get my coordinates. So, and my aunt, because she lives in Arizona, she's the closest to help me if something happened. But yeah, so a Spot, I used to have that. I don't really carry that anymore. A whistle. Whistle's good.
Ooh. Yeah, so anyone in the community can hear you.
Yep. So if something happens, one is just, you can scare animals with it. So if a cat's chasing you, for example, blow it, you might scare it away. If you want to, with bears, if you're in bear country, making noise. So if I don't have I don't like the bells. I don't know if you ever went hiking and heard the bells on people's backpacks. It's like little jingle bells usually. And they put them on their bags because basically if you make noise, a bear is less likely to be startled by you. And especially with black bears, the only reason a black bear would attack you is if you startle it or if you get too close to its babies. But if they hear you coming, they'll move, so they're not right in the middle of the path, for example. So people make noise. I don't like the bells because then you have to hear them the whole hike and it's really annoying. So I have actually, you can find it on my YouTube channel. I have a video where I just was singing to myself. I'm like, I'm all alone in the woods. And I just I hope a bear doesn't come get me. But I was making noise. So
I did that with my cousin too. When we were in Yellowstone and we were like, we don't want none of these bears to get us. And while we were hiking, we'd be like, okay, 99 bottles of beer on the wall.
Exactly. Whatever you got to do, hum, whistle. I realized, I think it was that same trip that I realized I wasn't a very good whistler. I was like, well, whistling's not working, so I guess I better sing. And then I tried singing. I started making up fake languages. So I was singing in fake Spanish. I don't know. And I'm like, it sounds pretty. It sounds prettier when I sing like that. But yeah, if you make noise, most animals will leave you alone. Mountain cats are probably the scariest in my opinion.
Have you faced a mountain cat before?
No, I have not faced a mountain cat, and I never hope I do. They're very calculated and malicious, so they will stalk you in the woods, not to scare you, but what they'll do is they'll stalk you and they'll watch your entire hike and then just come out when they think you're the most vulnerable. So especially as a solo female hiker, it's tough.
I guess you always got to have those people to count on, in case a mountain cat comes your way.
Yeah, you guys gotta be prepared. Have like your whistle ready.
Wow.
A whistle won't help you if it really wants to get you. But I saw a video of a guy being followed by a cat, and this cat was like, it was scary. I think he got too close to the cat and its baby, but the whole way down the hike, he's following it. And then when the guy finally threw a rock at the cat got scared and ran away. But he didn't do it for like a half hour. It was crazy.
Typical cat.
Yeah, cat. Ooh, shiny things, shiny lights. Get like a laser pointer,
Oh my gosh. So, on to the last part. How do you like to give back to your community?
Great question. So, to my community, I mean, I feel like to me, like writing is a big thing. Like I like giving back to the general community through my stories and, giving, especially in the children's books, giving positive messages for kids to learn and grow with. And so that's one way. And that's just obviously something I love doing anyway. And I would do it regardless. I actually am trying to organize a hike with the local Girl Scouts. So that would be something I really want to do. So I'm actually trying to do it with the New York Girl Scouts, but I could do it with any. But yeah, I really would like to do that. Get some kids out of the city who never get to leave the city and take them, like if I can get them up to the Catskills, that'd be great.
They want to have to embrace it like Juniper, right?
Embrace it like Juniper, exactly. And I don't want to take them on some dinky trail by a lake. I want to take them on like, let's do a real hike, like something that, and it's going to be kids, there's something they can do. But like, I want them to have like a vista at the top. I want them to get to the top and feel like they're rewarded with a beautiful view. Because I feel like that's hiking for me is, there's great hikes in New Jersey, but none of them compare to out west or upstate New York or even north of that. So yeah, that I would like to give back to the community by doing that.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's been great having you on with me. My last question is, what song do you like to put on, or artist, when you need to hype yourself up and remind yourself that you're a boss?
Okay. I really enjoy 21 Pilots. So they have great music that kind of just like between the lyrics and the melodies, and also a lot of times the rhythm, it's like kind of gets you going. And for me, music is most meaningful when it not only has a good melody and beat, but the lyrics mean something. So that's huge. My favorite band ever is Mute Math. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but they're worth looking up. Mute Math. It's one word.
Mute Math.
Yeah, but they're my favorite of my generation, like music, not classic, but mine. Yeah, and basically rock music. Kind of feel like a badass, like I was a rock star in a different life or in my next life, not this one, but one of the others, and I channel that through my rock music. So.
Oh man! Oh, I love putting on Hailstorm.
Oh, I love Hailstorm. Yeah, Lizzie, she's great.
Yes. Well, that's everything. How would our listeners get in contact with you?
Awesome. So if they want to get into contact with me, whether it's to learn about my books, to buy my books, to learn about writing consultations or editing services, you can go to NicolineEvans.com. My Instagram is at Nicoline Novels, and same with Facebook and Twitter at Nicoline Novels. And then if you want to watch my adventures, you can go to YouTube and check out my channel. It's called Cloud Hopping with Nicoline.
Thank you so much and have a great night.
Thank you. It was great chatting with you.
You too.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Andy Special. Some upcoming events for Nicoline are the Boston FanExpo from August 12th to 14th, the Quail Hollow Arts Festival in New Paltz, New York from September 3rd to 5th, and tentatively, the Collingswood Book Festival in New Jersey on October 1st. Join Rebecca Ashworth and me next Wednesday as she teaches us about being a special education teacher and an executive director at Color Street, a dry nail polish company. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen and learn more at theandyspecial.com. You can also connect on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook at The Andy Special. I'm your host, Ashley Chanka. Until next time, my friend.